Hello and welcome to Sunrider Liberation Day open brackets close brackets turn. I am RMP 792 and thank you Love in Space for getting this out in time. A couple of days earlier might have been nice from my point of view because it now means I've got 3 days to record this whole thing. But I will take what I can get, and the fact I got it out this week is very nice. Because for anyone not aware, this week, or the week you're seeing this, is the week of the 100th episode of Let's Review, so I'm very happy that a Sunrider game was available in the perfect time to actually get covered for my 100th episode. Because a milestone like that deserves a game that has been an important part of this channel for a long time. Now, let's face it, the original Sunrider was something like my 8th episode. And I've always looked forward to the release of a new Sunrider game. So, that is very good to know. If you have not seen my Let's Play of Sunrider Liberation Day, and for that matter the other Sunrider games, you're probably going to want to watch those first, because I suspect there's going to be spoilers and plot significant stuff and all that malarkey. Now my mouse is being weird again. There we go. This mouse is definitely getting a bit dodgy. Probably ought to be thinking about replacing it. Oh well, I know I could afford it. On the topic of I am broke, please be aware I do have a Patreon if you want to support me. There's a link to that in the description of this video. And you can get various perks, including your name in the credits of Let's Review, and all the way up to choosing what game I'll actually cover on the channel. And theoretically, if you're willing to pay an obscene amount of money, I believe I described the top tier, which is the 100 buckaroos a month. I believe I described that as the tier for a person with too much money or an abiding hatred of it. And if you want to go for that, I will actually, I will flog whatever product you want me to flog, providing I don't find it in some way offensive. But anyway, enough about my constant need for cash. So, Sunrider Liberation Day Return. As I say, I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. A quick note before I actually begin, this is the Steam edition. So if you're expecting all the nudity and what else, that's in the uncensored version, sorry, but I can't show you that on YouTube. Let's face it, I've had content ID strikes based on Sunrider games before for showing the sexy stuff, and I happen to think that particular attitude of YouTube's is bollocks, but I can't do a damn thing about it, so sorry. So it's easier for me to play the Steam edition and not worry about censoring it myself, rather than play the uncensored version and then have to go in and censor my videos. With that said, please be aware I record all my Let's Play footage, I would say a week in advance. It's currently Wednesday the 25th, because it's pretty much as soon as this bit of DLC has come out. So as I say, I've got 3 days to get this recorded. And I will say at this point that I'm going to do my dead level best. If I have to record like 4 hours of footage a day, I will. But I just want to say I hope you guys appreciate this, for the simple reason that visual novels, especially pure visual novels that don't include sort of gameplay elements where I can rest my voice for a bit, are the hardest thing for me to do, purely because it requires me talking constantly for anything up to a 3 or 4 hour recording session, and swapping between various voices and various other things. So it is quite stressful on my voice. So I do appreciate the fact that you guys enjoy Sunrider. I enjoy Sunrider, and to be fair, I do love. I genuinely, as I've said before, I don't actually like visual novels when I'm just sitting reading them, but I really get into them when I am sitting here reading them and narrating them and doing all the voices and all that stuff. So, generally, I am very much looking forward to this, and hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it can make up for the slightly disappointing story aspects of the main Liberation Day game, but we'll see. So, quick note if you've not seen my stuff before, which, again, you really should, because you do not want to be going into this cold. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I will probably say rhetorical questions and things like that, and if you want to comment, feel free. I do read every comment, and I'm trying to get into the habit of responding to more of them. But if you could timestamp the point in the video I said whatever you're referring to, that'd be handy, because remembering what I said 5 minutes ago is difficult for me sometimes, let alone what I said a week previously. So, you know, just timestamp anything you're referring to, and that'll make it easier for me to look it up and see what I said and things like that. So, let us begin with Sunrider Liberation Day, open brackets close brackets turn. And no, I'm not going to call it that throughout the entire thing. Okay, return after story. The alternate universe retelling of the main story where Kato Shields mysteriously wakes up 3 days before the Liberation Day massacre, somehow aware of who will betray him. Armed with the knowledge of the future, he embarks on a desperate race against time to change the bleak future. But will he successfully rewrite the past? Or will his story end with his bloody death? Well, that's promising. So, there's quite a few different endings on this one. From the moment humanity began to unravel the mysteries of quantum theory, scientists and emperors alike became obsessed with a singular technology. During the search for this holy grail, countless other findings which would come to greatly aid and terrorize humanity were discovered. The warp drive, warheads which could level entire continents, faster than light communications, and even a massive doomsday weapon which could extinguish entire stars. The paradox core. But all of those powers were irrelevant next to what would be possible with the Holy Grail, a time machine. In its most simple application, one could undo past mistakes. If an action ended up causing an adverse reaction later in time, one could simply travel back to before when the action was made and react differently, with the benefit of hindsight. The full implications of such a device were still far more awesome. One could stop aging, freeze time for everyone else but oneself, and perform an unlimited number of actions while everyone else was frozen. Translocate other people and objects anywhere, at any time. Become older, become younger. Given an infinite amount of time, one could be anyone, accomplish anything. By no exaggeration, someone with a time machine would not be a human, but a god. Alice Ashada pondered these thoughts as she walked through the diode cloning facility. Her steps took her to a familiar location, her old office. So, even this detail has been recreated exactly as before. It was here, where the merest sliver of a second she brushed her fingers against that almighty power. The Paradox Project. The galaxy's greatest and most dangerous minds had gathered here, in the furthest corner of the galaxy, to finally attain what had eluded humanity for so long. They were exiled Alliance researchers, new Imperial scientists deemed too dangerous even for the tyrants of New Eden. But attempt after attempt, year after year, they had failed to produce results. Computations done through their best supercomputers and artificial intelligences failed to yield breakthroughs. It was then, when they realized such knowledge was beyond the comprehension of mere humans, they needed to create a new race, capable of thought processes beyond the capacity of even the most gifted of Homo sapiens. First a prototype was created, Alice Ashada. They watched her, raised her as one of their own, even gave her the surname of the director of the Paradox Project, who assumed the role of her father. But it was all a lie! Humans created me for their own ends, tossed me away the moment I fulfilled my use. The prototype produced some promising results, accomplishing what supercomputers and the galaxy's best minds could not. Alice successfully translocated molecules by fractions of a second, a breakthrough, produced even before the artificial girl had turned 16. And using the lessons learned from the prototype, the Alpha was finally created. Alice's teeth clenched. Those scum created my sister and I just so it could be tools in their search to become gods. But I stopped their plans and saved both of us. The prototype had proved far more difficult to control than her creators had believed. She accidentally discovered the truth of her existence. Her belief that she was a normal human girl who lived with her caring parents in a research station was shattered that day. First of many pieces of her sanity which would break following that day. Yes, it was here, when I struck down my father with my very hands. What else could I do? I was merely a test run. They were going to toss me away like an obsolete machine. I had no choice. I was going to rescue my sister, escape this prison. But Alice's life did not have such a happy conclusion. My sister. Alpha's voice disturbed Alice. Her younger sister approached her. Alpha touched Alice's eye with her index finger. A single droplet of a tear ran down her finger as she wiped Alice's eye. Your thoughts, they are bleak. Alice turned around, putting her back to her sister. She closed off her mind so her younger sister would not see the depths of her madness. Why do you retreat to the abyss so? Soon we shall control all of humanity under our grasp. We will rule those who sought to control us. Our spy continues to make great inroads into controlling the would-be saviour of humanity, the mighty Captain Shields. If he continues to follow our plan, then both the Alliance and Pact will unify, and when the Ebon Fleet arrives, he will rally the galaxy against humanity's greatest threat. As a result of that conflict, he will become not merely captain, but something far more powerful. And with his greatest love, our proxy controlling him, we will rule the galaxy from the shadows, constantly leading him down the path we desire. Such is our destiny, no? We were created to be greater than them. No. Human filth. Savages. The galaxy would do better if every last trace of them were wiped from existence. Suddenly, Alpha embraced her sister from behind. It will not be long, my sister. You have suffered, but I seek to create a universe where we can finally be safe. Yes. A galaxy where we can be safe. Alice stiffly touched her sister's hand. I will go and create that. This is the only way. My sister is yet naive. She doesn't understand the threat the humans pose. Alice took her sister's arms off her and walked away by herself. I will return to the front lines, and I am taking that with me. That accursed machine. I will need her for what is to come. Be safe, my sister. I shall return, and when I do, the galaxy shall have changed. With that, Alice's shadow walked into the shadows. Shields tossed and turned in his sleep. Vivid images flashed in his mind. This was different from other nightmares. The ones he would have of blood-soaked faces no longer. That young girl would die again and again. He would see her pick up the knife every time, but despite knowing what was going to happen, his body would be paralysed. Her face would morph into his sister. Ray. You killed me. No. Tonight's nightmare was different. Images flashed by, too quick to decipher, but something horrible had happened. No, will happen. He was going to make a horrible mistake. Suddenly, he jolted awake. He realised he was in his bed. He shook his head, relieved that it was just a nightmare. Wait a minute. He felt someone sleeping beside him. What the hell? Shields spun round and pulled the cover off his bed, revealing a certain pink-haired doctor nestled up next to him. Glow! Shields leaped out of his bed and stood upright as a steel rod, eyeing Claude with outrage. Certainly he had known the ship's doctor would go to any lengths to molest him, but to actually break into his quarters after hours? Besides, his room was locked with the strongest encryption protocol on board the ship. Akari had seen to it that his door wouldn't be broken into ever again. How did this buffoon of a doctor get here? For a moment, he tried to recall if he had been drinking heavily in the mess hall before arriving at his quarters. No doubt this lecherous doctor would have used such a lapse in his defences to latch onto him in his bedside. Thankfully, he recalled he'd merely been filling out paperwork the whole night before finally deciding he'd had enough and resigning himself to listening to Ava's lectures in the morning. Claude opened her eyes with a yawn. Good morning. How did you bypass security and get in here? Laura. Claude stood from the bed, her hair a mess. Oh, it was such a pitiful sight, Captain. Looking at your sleep-deprived face every day. As ship's doctor, I had to do something to remedy your sleep disorder stat. Of course, the best remedy would be a contended deep sleep after pounding your white-hot vanguard into the woman of your dreams. And so I, Claude Trilio, stepped up to the task. You can use this body, however, in a manner you desire. Your acting medical officer is ready to serve under, above, in front, and behind of you, Captain. Shields rubbed his face in irritation, the conversation obviously not going anywhere. Hey, cut it out! Look, I'm asking you to tell me what you're doing here. Well, I'm sure it'll become clear soon enough. What? As if on cue, Shields heard the door to his cabin open. The hell? He quietly knelt down behind his bed. If there was another intruder in his office, then it would mean that the security protocols on his door had failed entirely. He still had bad memories of what had happened the last time someone had broken into his room, and he wasn't about to take any chances this time. He quickly reached into his closet and withdrew a concealed pistol, and signaled Claude to hide behind him. Shields grimaced when Claude gripped onto him from behind, her massive boobs leaving 2 impressions on his back. She whispered in his ear. Captain, actually the gun won't be necessary. How do you know that? Because... Suddenly, Shields heard Chigara's voice upstairs. Chigara? What was she doing in his office at this time? Granted, somebody as talented as her could easily crack Hikaru's security protocols, but why would she... Suddenly, he felt something tear through his psyche, as if a bullet had just gone through his temple. Chigara, she... But what he saw next completely shattered the remaining bits of his mind. Come on, before the commander sees us. It was him. Shields watched, his jaws agape, as his identical clone took Chigara's hand and plopped her on top of his lap on his desk. What was going on? Even though his first instinct was to barge into Chigara and his clone's little romantic rendezvous, gun in hand to demand answers, his military training kept him firmly hidden, behind his bed looking for an escape route. He racked his brain for a possible explanation for this bizarre turn of events. Could this be a packed plot? Did they embed a spy wearing a hollow mask to impersonate him? No, that would never work. Anyone boarding the ship was subjected to a full DNA scan. Could it be one of the prototypes? That seemed a possibility, as they had a massive army of clones. Could they have acquired his DNA sample somewhere? All it would take to breed a second Kato Shields would be a strand of his hair left somewhere unwittingly by him. But it would still take a lifetime of training for a clone to successfully imitate him, and there was no way someone as intimate with him as Chigara would fall for a trick like that so easily. He had to calm his racing mind. For now, he had to escape detection, alert ship security, or something. He racked his brain for what the proper protocol for dealing with the doppelganger of the ship's captain was, but for some reason he couldn't remember being taught anything about it during his training at the Space Force Academy. Perhaps he'd slept through that one. Of course, the ship's design had left open a number of secret escape routes he could use to leave this room. A warship was an inherently dangerous locality, so a large number of concealed passageways crisscrossed the ship so the crew would not be stranded in the event the ship lost structural integrity. Shields slowly opened his closet and tore off the carpeting below, exposing an access gate to a tunnel heading to Deck 0. And to his relief, the gate still accepted his commands after he swiped the ID chip located on his sleeve on the security scanner. He opened the gate and motioned for Claude to follow him. Okay, so this is obviously something she's done, because let's face it, we learned at the end of the last one that Claude is some sort of mischievous deity. Somebody commented that they basically revealed Claude is a Q, and honest to God, that is the best explanation of what Claude is I have yet heard. She does remind me of a Q, albeit a female Q who was really into being a bit perverse, but hey, why not? After climbing down the tunnel, the pair dropped down from the ceiling onto their floor of the hallway. Shields immediately turned to Claude and interrogated her for answers. It seems like you have a better idea than I do about just what in the hell's name is going on here, and I want answers, Doctor. Well, this is a surprise. You don't remember anything? I can remember everything just fine. I am Captain Kato Shields of the assault carrier Sunrider. We arrived at Sarah yesterday to take part in the critical operation to liberate our homeworld from packed loyalist forces in conjunction with the Alliance combined fleet. But can you remember what happened after that? After we arrived at Sarah, I spoke with the rider team in the mess hall, returned to my office to do some paperwork, and the next thing I knew I was in bed with you. So you have no memory of what happened after the operation? The hell are you talking about? How would I know what happened after? The operation hasn't even begun yet. It appears you're suffering from some memory loss thanks to your first temporal translocation. Don't worry, in a few hours all your memories of what happened will return. Shield's brain spun at a disturbingly high frequency at what Claude was implying. Temporal translocation? But memory loss? He'd known Claude was a ditz, but this was on an entirely different level from her usual antics. There was no question something out of the galaxy was happening, though. He just witnessed his body double flirting with Chigara as if it was the most normal and casual thing in the world. He closed his eyes and tried his best to remember just how he'd got out here. Those images again. Bloody flashes of horror flashed in his head. He had no idea where they took place or when. Sorry, I'm going to have to turn the music down just a smidge because it's quite loud. There we go. Because I don't... yes, they obviously didn't have the time to voice this segment with the Japanese voices, which, as I say, I'm fine with because, you know, it was something I turned off anyway. Sorry about that. But he knew Chigara was somehow involved. Those aren't just images. They're my memories, aren't they? Ah, did you remember something, Captain? A massacre. Everything we worked for destroyed. Horror. Knowing that much, I guess I can fill you in about the rest. 3 days from now, a disaster will occur at Sarah, which will thrust humanity into a war so devastating it will make the Neutral Rim War look like a mere playground scuffle in comparison. I'm sure you already have a premonition, but Chigara will be the catalyst who will spark that disaster. I've brought you here to rewrite the past and prevent that disaster from occurring. Once again, Shield's head received another bombshell of a revelation. What was Claude even saying? Bring him back to rewrite the past? Something like that was impossible. Suddenly more memories played back in his head. You're telling me Claude is a time traveller? No, far more than that. If such an entity could be given a name, the closest description of her would be Claude is a god. Shields rubbed his spinning head and fought back the mounting nausea. While his misunderstanding of what had or will happen was still foggy, like trying to recall a dream he had seen months ago, Claude's seemingly impossible explanation seemed validated by what fragmentary memories he still retained. Okay then, we alert ship security, detain Chigara. Problem solved, right? Actually, Captain... He shook his head. Only at his own naivety. He shook his head at his own nativity. Why do I want to say nativity when I know it's naivete? He shook his head at his own naivete. Of course, solving this wasn't going to be that simple. For all intents and purposes, the Kato shields hitting on Chigara in his office right now was the captain that everyone accepted in this timeline. If he revealed himself now, he would be the one who was detained and questioned. Given his doppelganger's infatuation with the chief, he doubted convincing him she would be a spy would be so easy, especially from inside a brig cell. And the fact that he had less than 72 hours to stop the massacre meant he couldn't afford to risk getting confined in the brig for the duration of the coming battle. He would have to take a more covert approach. No, the proper protocol in such a situation would be to confine the captain's doppelganger to the brig for further questioning, which to everyone in this timeline would be me. We can't afford to blow our cover. We'll have to approach this differently. We recruit one person to help us, someone we can trust. Then the three of us work from the shadows to prevent that disaster from occurring. Ah, I see. Understood, Captain. Then who shall we recruit to our cause? He gave that question a long thought. That person would have to be... Please choose your romance option. So... Well, let's face it, I've put quite a lot of thought into who my romance option would be in Sunrider. With the caveat that I would replay it enough times to see every possible romance route, obviously, because I like this game. And for them, so Asaga, no, nope, sorry, she's too much of a jealous hothead. Ava, yeah, maybe. Solar, maybe. Ikari, no, because I don't want to mess up her ongoing thing with Kriska. Seriously, let's face it, Ikari and Kriska are the best written romance in the Sunrider games so far. So I'm not risking breaking that up. So if I had to make a choice out of these three, it's got to be either Ava or Solar. Incidentally, after I make this choice, I would like to remind you once again I have a Patreon, and I think it's the $250 a month total is when I'm going to start recording, you know, reruns of games I've already covered, you know, with different romance options, because I'm sure people would like to see that, because I'm always getting people asking if I'm going to replay a game and do, you know, different character route. You know, and anyone who's anyone at all who's a Patreon supporter of me, that's even at the minimum $2 level a month, which is not a lot, will get a vote in, you know, what game I do at what time. But anyway, enough soliciting for money. So I think it's gonna have to be Ava, because on this actually, I don't know. God damn it! This is genuinely a difficult decision between these two. Solar seems like a logical choice from the standpoint that if anyone's going to believe us about time travel and anything else, it's going to be Solar. But at the same time, Ava's the one in the best position to actually help us. So I'm going to risk Ava. Plus, of the two, Ava would probably be the one I'd pick romance-wise, at least first time around. Naturally, the ship's XO would be the best person to turn for help to in this situation. Okay, we're going to Ava. Are you sure about this, Captain? Knowing that stick-in-the-mud woman, she'd probably be the first person to report you to security and lock you up in the brig. No. Out of everyone on board the ship, there's no one else I trust more. Besides, she's been trying to convince me for the past month that Chigara's a spy. Now I'm going to go tell her she's been right all this time. We need Ava's help more than anyone else. She's the highest ranked officer aboard this ship, aside from me. Not to mention she's good at getting things done. Well, if you say so, Captain. But just to be on the safe side, I think you should meet her without me. Yeah, that'll probably be for the best. After all, seeing you would probably put her in a bad mood. And with that, Shield set off to the unusual place to find Ava. T-minus 63 hours until the Liberation Day massacre. 27 hours until Chigara enters the mine stream. Sure enough, he found Ava working at the bridge. He tried to walk into the bridge as casually as possible and approached her. Hey, yeah? Psst! Ava! Ava turned in irritation at Shield's unusual way to greet her. Is there a problem, Captain? Yeah, come over here. Shields ushered Ava into a secluded corner of the bridge. Captain, what appears to be the problem? Well, honestly, he had no idea where to even begin. Hello, Ava, my glorious childhood friend turned executive officer. I have just travelled back in time to prevent a future massacre from happening. Oh, by the way, don't trust anything the other guy who looks identical to me says, because he's heading all of you guys off a great big disaster. Like I could ever just say that. Captain, you appear to be in a great amount of thought. I was in fact planning to visit you in your office sometime after finishing my shift to ensure you will be giving the battle plans due diligence. Yeah, I still remember that little incident. Look, this is going to be difficult to believe, but look, I swear, on the day in the Advanced Academy when we tried to scrub the entire pool clean between just the two of us, I am the Kato Shields you grew up from childhood. Understood? I see. Shields took Ava's shoulders and whispered in her ears. First Officer Crescentia, what I am about to tell you is a highly classified matter which directly affects the security of the entire galaxy. And as much as I would like to say that this is a joke, I am being completely honest. I have travelled in time from the future to warn you of nothing like buggering up an important moment. I have travelled in time from the future to warn you of an event which will occur shortly after our successful liberation of Sarah. During the victory, Chief Engineer Ashada will fall under the control of prototypes and orchestrate the assassination of every major Alliance military leader at the ceremony, including Admiral Harold Gray. This event will spark an intergalactic war between the Solar Alliance and Pact, which will threaten the existence of humanity as we know it. There is currently another Kato Shields frolicking with the Chief Engineer right now in my office. That is the Kato Shields that you know as your captain in this timeline. You must do everything in your power to prevent the Liberation Day massacre, starting with the detention of Chief Engineer Ashada. Ava swallowed every word without a hint of surprise in her eyes. Yet Shields knew that every word of what he had just said sounded like a big prank. Finally, Ava nodded. Right, well that's a reasonable place to leave this first part, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next.